We're keeping an eye on the Tunnel 5 fire. It's burning on the Washington side of the gorge in Skamania and Klickitat counties. The fire started burning earlier this week. It's grown to more than 500 acres now. At least 10 homes have been destroyed. And SR 14 is closed in that area. No word yet on what started the fire. It's about 5% contained today. This time of year, wind and humidity often play a huge role in what happens next with wildfires, which is why we're turning to our weather expert for a glimpse of the future there in the gorge. Here's Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino, and I understand a change is coming for those fire conditions in the gorge?
Yeah, that's right, Pat. You know, hot weather and very low humidity, not great for fighting fire, but wind is worse. We'd rather have hot, dry weather with no wind than really strong winds and cooler temperatures, because the wind, as you can imagine, just moves the fire. So here's what we're dealing with right now. Our camera closest to that fire in Hood River, out in the Dalles, looking back towards Hood River, and you can see the haze, and it's hot. 100 degrees in the Dalles, 10% humidity, similar conditions over in Hood River and in Underwood. But there is a change on the way. Look at the winds being reported in the Dalles in the gorge right now. Calm in Hood River, basically calm in the Dalles, calm out to the east too. That is going to change in a very large way starting tomorrow. Now, we've got a fire weather warning for the Willamette Valley as well until later on tonight because of the hot weather. Will cool off tomorrow. Also, air quality issues with the smoke that came down from Canada last night. But back to the wind in the gorge. This is our forecast for the winds over the next 48 hours. When we put numbers to this, here's Carson, here's Hood River, right here where you see the color of the blue, that's roughly where Underwood is. And watch what happens as we go through time. We'll stop this tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. The winds are still pretty light. They're out of the west, 6 to 9 miles an hour. But by tomorrow afternoon, look at this. They're sustained 14 to 20, and that's not the gust. That's just the sustained wind. So that is problematic as those winds increase tomorrow morning. Pardon me. And tomorrow afternoon, we're getting sustained winds of 25 miles an hour in Hood River and Underwood. So this is the change that we're worried about, Pat, with these strong westerly winds. Now, it's possible that because the fire was burning in a certain way that this could these winds could push the fire back over areas that already burned, but there's a lot of hope involved in that, and the strong winds are going to make it extremely difficult to fight that fire in the gorge, and they're going to continue these strong winds into Friday. So a couple of days on the way. I mean, really now through tomorrow morning is the best opportunity for the firefighters to really get a handle on this and do as much work as they can, which I'm sure they will. Okay, the good news about the change in the weather for us is that the smoke is going to get cleared out. This is our smoke model. It's all high-level smoke mainly. It's getting pushed away, though, as we see that change in the weather come later on during the week. Then, of course, 96 in Portland. We had record high temperatures in the valley today. Starting in Portland, we made it up to 98 degrees at the airport. Vancouver, 96. Eugene, nearly 100. Troutdale, 98 as well. So record highs up and down the I-5 corridor, Pat. And this is going to continue a little bit tomorrow. We're going to see things drop from the upper 90s to the low 90s as we go into tomorrow afternoon. So there's a little bit of improvement on the way there.
All right, Matt, so quick question going back to that Underwood area,
yes,
where the wind's going to start howling. I mean, that sounds like a real problem.
I really think it will be. And I was talking about this yesterday going, boy, I hope they can get a lot of work done today because the winds have been calm. They're still calm now, but by tomorrow, those are strong winds. The gorge is famous for its strong winds. The windsurfers and the kiteboarders love it, and it's going to be a great pattern for them. But boy, it's going to push and work on that fire in a very large way. So that is going to be pretty difficult for the firefighters to contend with as we go through it. We'll be cooler, still near 90 tomorrow, but then much cooler for the weekend in the 80s. And again, no rain other than coastal drizzle. And of course, that doesn't really matter when you're talking about a fire out in the gorge.
All right, so another question. Yesterday was the hottest day on this planet ever, as far as we know. What's up with that? Is this global warming coming to rest with all of us?
Well, global warming has a footprint or fingerprints on our weather nearly every single day to varying degrees. Keep in mind, this is preliminary data from the University of Maine, so it needs to be verified, and the science and the research will continue to do that. But this is what we expect. And the Earth is basically now, our average temperature is about 2 degrees warmer than the 1880 to 1910 baseline. And here's what happens when you change. You may think 2 degrees, what's the big deal, right? Well, look at this bell curve and focus on this one here. We'll get to this one in a second. Most of our weather occurs in the big fat part of the bell curve. If you know any statistics, you know how that works. And the extremes are less likely. Cold extremes here, hot extremes here. But look what happens if you just shift it a little bit, a small change in the average, which is what this means. The average weather, you know, there's still a big overlap, doesn't change all that much. but the extremes change in a huge way. That means our extremes are now much hotter than they used to be in the old climate. They may not happen all that frequently, but they're going to be worse than they were. They're going to be hotter than they were. We're going to see far fewer extreme lows, and that's been the case over the last 10, 20 years. So yeah, hottest day on record yesterday being reported by the University of Maine. We're likely going to see more of those in the years to come.
Wow, super interesting. I love when you really go deep and nerd out on this stuff. One final question,
Yes.
going back to the fire weather. Am I right in thinking that the wind is following low pressure? So it's going from high pressure to low pressure?
Exactly. That's exactly how and why wind blows. And so what's happening now is we're going to see with the cooler air on the west side, that increases the pressure because cooler air is more dense. So we'll have higher pressure on the west side. The heat low, as we call it, which is where the hottest air is, which has been kind of hovering around western Oregon. It's kind of a widespread area this time around. That's going to shift east of the Cascades, and the wind will do exactly what you said. Follow the pressure from high to low, right? And then it's enhanced, of course, by the terrain in the gorge, which is what makes the gorge so special.
Yeah. All right. Always a treat to have you on, Matt. Thank you so much.